Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glorious is Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text 8. And without further ado, we'll start now. I'm actually replacing Mother Gita, who can't make it today. Jayarata Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadadhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Privajikacharya Astottara Sati Sishimaris Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shira Prabhupada Ki Jai Nityalila Pavishna Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Privajikacharya Astottara Sati Sishimaris His Divine Grace Shira Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Aranti Koti Vaishnavinni Ki Jai Namacharya Siddha Haidas Thakur Ki Jai प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवाचार्य गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय मथुरा धाम की जय नवद्वीप धाम की जय जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय जगन्नाथ स्वामी की जय गंगा मई की जय जमुना मई की जय तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Worship Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale. Srimati Bhakti Tita Swami Namni. Namaste, Krishna Vinaya Prabhupada Sattva Sri Guru Karuna Shakti Bhakti Titi Namini. Narayana Namaskritan Naruntevam Narotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Gudirayat Nasta Prayesva Madresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavata Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text 8. Kechit Swadehanta Hridaya Yavakashe Pradesha Matram Purusham Vasantam Chaturbhujam Kanjaratanga Shanka Gadagaram Dharanaya Smaranti Kichit Swadehantarhidaya Kashe Pradesha Matram Purusham Vasantam Chaturbhujam Kanjaratanga Shanka Gadadharam Dharanaya Smaranti Kichit Swadehantar Hridaya Vakase Pradesha Matram Purusham Vasantam Chaturbhujam Kanjaratanga Shanka Gadadharam Dharanaya Smaranti. Hare Krishna.
Keche svadehentarhidaya vakashe pradesha matram purusham vasantam chaturbhujam kanjaratanga shanka gadadharam dharanaya smaranti. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
केचित् देहान्तरहृदयावकाशे प्रादेशमात्रं पुरुषं वसन्तं चतुर्भुजं कञ्जरथाङ्कशङ्ख गदाधरं धारणय स्मरन्ति. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice, Pranav.
Very nice. I was also very impressed. Hare
Very
Krishna.
nice.
Anyone else? All right, we'll do word for word. Keche, others. Swadehansa, within the body. Hridaya avakashe, in the region of the heart. Pradesha matram, measuring only 8 inches. Purusham, the personality of Godhead. Vasantam, residing. Chaturbhujam, with 4 hands. Kanjam, lotus. Rataanga, the wheel of a chariot. Shankha, conch shell. Gadadharam, and with a club in the hand. Dharanaya, conceiving in that way. Smaranti, do meditate upon him. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Others conceive of the personality of Godhead residing within the body in the region of the heart and measuring only 8 inches, with 4 hands, carrying a lotus, a wheel of a chariot, a conch shell, and a club, respectively. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The all-pervading personality of Godhead resides as Paramatma in the heart of each and every living entity. The measurement of the localized personality of Godhead is estimated to expand from the ring finger to the end of the thumb, more or less 8 inches. The form of the Lord described in this verse, with distribution of different symbols, beginning from the lower right hand up and down to the lower left hand, with lotus, wheel of a chariot, conch shell, and club, respectively, is called Janardhan, or the plenary portion of the Lord who controls the general mass. There are many other forms of the Lord with varied situations of the symbols, lotus, conch shell, etc. And they are differently known as Purushottam, Achyuta, Narasingha, Trivikram, Rishikesh, Keshav, Madhav, Anirudh, Pradyumna, Sankashan, Sridhar, Vasudev, Damodar, Janardhan, Narayan, Hari, Padmanabh, Vaman, and Madhusudan. Govinda, so I have to continue, Krishna, Vishnumurti, Aroksaja, and Upendra. These 24 forms of the localized personality of Godhead are worshipped in different parts of the planetary system. And in each system, there's an incarnation of the Lord having a different Vaikuntha planet in the spiritual sky, which is called the Paravyoma. There are many other hundreds and scores of different forms of the Lord, and each and every one of them has a particular planet in the spiritual sky, of which this material sky is only a fragmental offshoot. The Lord exists as Purush, or the male enjoyer, although there's no comparing him to any male form in the material world. But all such forms are Advaita, none different from one another, and each of them is eternally young. The young Lord with 4 hands is nicely decorated as described below. Om Aginati Mirandasya Gyana Gana Shalakaya Chakshu Umlitam Dina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manogristam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirveshesha Sunyavari Paschatya Deshitarini. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Dvaita Gadadhara Shiva Shari Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So the translation again, the English translation. Others conceive of the personality of Godhead residing within the body in the region of the heart and measuring only 8 inches with 4 hands, carrying a lotus, wheel of a chariot, conch shell, and a club, respectively. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So this is Shukadeva Goswami describing the the four-handed Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the Paramatma is the one that expands like that. Two four-handed, and the hands are holding lotus, flower, wheel of a chariot, conch shell, and club. Now, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada states that the all-pervading personality of Godhead. So all-pervading. All-pervading means omnipresent, everywhere, covering all. Pervade is to cover. So covering all, just like the sky in a sense is all-pervading for us in the way we see, covers everything. So the personality of Godhead is presiding as in our hearts and residing in our hearts too. He is the controller of everything that happens. People generally think that if they want to do something, they think about it, and then the limbs or parts of the body that's supposed to carry out that function just simply carries out the function. It's not quite like that. Yes, the parts of the body that's to carry out the function is definitely an active participant in that action. The place is supposed to take the action is supposed to take place at that area is part of it. The endeavor is part of it. Now, the person doing it, definitely. But there's one more. The sanction of the Paramatma. The Supreme Personality of Godhead residing in our hearts allows us to do whatever we wish to do. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not allow it, the Paramatma, we can't carry it out. And so non-devotees tend to ignore the fact that the Lord is actually supervising and allowing Anumanta Upadrishta. Supervise and allow things to happen. The Lord does not interfere with our free will or free choice. But there are situations where we all have experience of it, that we plan to do something and then the plans change. The plans change because sometimes the weather changes and then we can't do it. Oh, we'll have a cookout, then it rains, then the cookout is over. Can't have it outside anymore. Or you say you want to have a cookout, same example, but the wind kicks in so badly that everything practically on the table is just flying away. So then you find, okay, you have to make an adjustment. So when everything is going nicely, that you can do whatever you want to do, it is the Paramatma. The Paramatma has allowed it to happen. That's why. So the Lord is the cause of all causes. Now, by his own will, he can appear smaller than an atom so that he can fit into an atom, and Paramatma is like that. It's in every single atom. Or in our hearts too, he can be that size which is indicated here, about 8 inches. That's what Maharaj Pariksit saw when he was in the womb of his mother Uttara, and the Ashwatam to a Brahmastra that was coming to destroy him. The Lord appeared in the womb. That size Lord appeared in the womb of Uttara and saved him. what it said is that the Brahmastra was actually able to destroy the physical body of Maharaj Pariksit, but the Lord actually supplied physical body to him. Made it all possible. Nothing is impossible for the Lord. So the effect of the Brahmastra was felt, but the soul cannot be destroyed by anything. Therefore, Maharaj Pariksit's soul never was affected, and the soul is the real person. The soul is the one that gives consciousness. And so the Lord arranged it for Maharaj Pariksit to come anyway. So in this feature, the interesting thing was that when Uttara came to report to Krishna that something was really happening badly, I mean, when he was reported to him, not Uttara, but when he was reported to Krishna, Krishna was still with Kunti and the Pandavas, but he still appeared in the womb of Uttara. He can expand himself at any time for the purpose that he wants done. So, Tukadeva Goswami is bringing us more information about the Super Soul. This title, the title of this chapter is The Lord in the Heart. So that's what's being talked about here. Now, this is four-handed Lord. And in the heavenly planets, they perceive him that way, four-handed. We are fortunate to see the original form of the Lord, two hands. The four-handed, the four hands, we have the right hand lower and the right hand upper, left hand lower and left hand upper. Four hands, four arms too. And so Srila Prabhupada describes that the beginning from the lower right hand up to the lower, or up and down to the lower left hand. That means beginning from the lower right hand, then up to the upper right hand, then across to the upper left hand, and then down to the lower left hand. So in that way, from the lower right hand, he's holding a chariot, wheel of a chariot. Sorry, let's start again. So from the lower right hand, he's holding a lotus flower. And then the upper right hand, he's holding a wheel of a chariot. Then the upper left conch shell, and then the lower left hand, the club, in that order. Now, depending on how these four items are distributed in the Lord's four hands, he has a particular name. This is all by, it's not mechanical, this is by his own will. So when he holds in a certain way, he's called a particular name, like that. So the four-handed Lords, Srila Prabhupada describes all of them. And there are 24 ways in which four items can be distributed or arranged. 24 ways. And it's not hard at all. I mean, you could do a little bit of, if you don't mind, a little bit of math. If you have two things, there's only one way, well, there are two ways to put them together. Is it either A or B and A? That's it. If you have three things, there are actually six ways to arrange them. You have A, B, C. That's one way. Then you maintain the A and switch the B and C position. So it's A, C, B. That's the second way. Now there are six ways, so that leaves four. The one that I described, A was the beginning letter. And then B and C followed, and then C and B. So A, B, C, and A, C, B. That's two. Now you can make B the beginning. That leaves A and C to switch. So B, A, C, or B, C, A. That's another two. If we add to the first two, that's four. And now you make C the first one. Now you're going to be switching A and B. So it's C, B, A, or C, A, B. That's the other two. Total, six. And how you're able to figure that out in math is simply, there are three things, so you just multiply all the way down to one. 3 times 2 times 1. And 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 1 is 6. So there's 6 ways. So with that idea, if you have 4 items like the way it is for the Lord, 4 items in the 4 hands, how many ways? Well, in the 3 hands, I went through it, but actually it's just 3 times 2 times 1. It'll give you the number of ways. So if there are 4 items, same thing. 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. If there are 5 items, it's going to be 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, like that. And what the total is, that's the number of ways. So 4 times 3 for 4, that's 12. 3 times 2, no, that's 24. 24 times 1 is 24. So there are 24 ways in which the lotus, wheel of a chariot, conch shell, and a club can be distributed in the 4-handed form of the Lord. And each one has a name of the Lord. And each one has a function too. And each one has their own planet in the spiritual world. And so Shri Prabhupada lists them. Janardhan is the one that was described the first time in purport. But then there are other ones too. Purushottam, Achyuta, Narasingha, Trivikram, Hrishikesh, Keshava, Madhava, Anirudh, Pradyumna, Sankashan, Sridhar, Vasudev, Damodar, Janardhan, Narayan, Hari, Pavana, Vamana, Madhusudan, Govinda, Krishna, Vishnumurti, Ahuksaja, and Upendra. And added to the Janardhan is 24. So the Lord, in his the 4-handed form, he's also worshipped by none other than Lord Shiva. It is a story around the pastime involving Lord Shiva that's very, very nice. And I'm sure we have enough time. We want to discuss it, but I don't think we're going to be able to finish. And by the arrangement that we have now, I'm back on my regular spot tomorrow. So if we're not able to finish here, then I will actually continue tomorrow in the pastimes of the Lord. Particularly, Lord, that is Lord Shiva, because it's a wonderful, wonderful mantra that Lord Shiva came up with, and we can benefit tremendously from it. So anyway, the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are all from the Paramatma, the 4-handed Paramatma. And depending on how these 4 items are distributed, we listed earlier, are distributed in the hands, they have a particular name and its particular function also. The Lord remains young all the time. The potency of all of them are the same as the potency of Krishna. Plenary expansion of Krishna does not lose any of the power. The only exception is 4 different properties that belong to Krishna alone. But everything else is the same, all the other Vishnu forms of the Lord. So the Lord remains forever young. Prabhupada put that in there, eternally young, very beautiful, and with the 4 hands, very, very nicely decorated. And there will be more description of it, so that will be in the next test, which will be in tomorrow. So now, Lord Shiva. So we mentioned Lord Shiva. The pastime has to do with the sons, the 10 sons of King Prachinabhahisha. Prachinabhahisha was a king. In those days, kings have a lot of wealth. So their sons were princes. Materially, they didn't have anything to worry about. They had it all. But they were very, 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 very staunch devotees of the Lord. And so with all the wealth that was present, they still decided to leave home, leave the palace, and go perform austerities, tapasya, just to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. And so they set out to go. This is all in the Canto 4, chapter 24 of Srimad Bhagavatam. They set out to go 10 brothers. And since they were going to do an activity which is bhakti, in form of the tapasya, and even before we describe what's going on, what they're going to do, that's also a lesson for us. When we are serving devotees or serving Guru and serving Krishna, and then some challenges come, it should never stop us from serving. That is our tapasya. And Sri Prabhupada says we have to go through some tapasya in order to be closer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and increase our love for Him. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, when I'm serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead and I experience problems, that's when I'm happiest. I'm happiest because now I'm struggling because of the Lord. I'm struggling because I want to satisfy the Lord, and I'm determined to succeed in satisfying the Lord, no matter what challenge comes my way. And that's Bhaktivinoda Thakur's mentality. So to come back to this, the sons of Prachinabahi, the Prachetas, set off, and as they were going, they came by a body of water. In that body of water, we do this, excuse me. The body of water is huge, most like the size of an ocean, although it wasn't an ocean. But then they heard some sounds, beautiful, beautiful musical sounds coming from one end of this body of water. Later on, they saw very nicely dressed people. And then who were they with? They were with Lord Shiva. And so Lord Shiva approached the Prachetas and with a smiling face was very, very satisfied. And he began to speak to them. And he said to them, you are all sons of King Prachinabai, and I wish all good fortune for you. I also know what you're going to do. Therefore, I've made myself visible to you just to show my mercy upon you. Now, if Lord Shiva shows mercy to anyone, especially a devotee, that person is most fortunate. So Lord Shiva said this to the sons of King Prachinabahishat. Then he said, anyone, a person who is surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is the controller of everything, from material nature all the way up to the spiritual and the living entity. Anyone who is surrendered to the Supreme Lord is actually very dear to me. And it is good to hear from Lord Shiva. Many people perform pujas to Lord Shiva because they want material things. But this is Lord Shiva is speaking for himself. He says, anyone who is surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he called him by name, Krishna, the controller of everything, material and spiritual. That person who is surrendered to Krishna is actually very dear to me. So those who perform pujas wanting material things from Lord Shiva are really not dear to Lord Shiva. They're not. They want something, and Shiva gives it to them. And usually after, according to Srila Prabhupada, after Lord Vishnu approves that Shiva should give, then Lord Shiva gives material things. Because he knows that the material things is going to wind up entangling that person in material nature anyway. He can't go back to Godhead. So he doesn't like to do that. But the person who surrendered, just like Krishna says, Savadharma Parityaja Mama Ekam Sharanam Braja, abandon all varieties of religion and surrender to me. A person who's done that, Lord Shiva says, is actually very, very dear to him. So he told that. And then he brought back his statements to them again, the Prachetas. You are all devotees of the Lord. And as such, I appreciate that you are as respectable as the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. What a lesson to learn. Lord Shiva says the devotees of the Lord are as respectable as the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So if Lord Shiva tells us that the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the devotee are both respectable, should we disrespect any devotee? Should we? We'll leave you to answer that yourselves. We have to be very, very, very careful. Sometimes in doing things, rather than respect means even if you disagree with the devotee, you have to find a nice way of bringing it up to them and not upset them. That's what the devotee is supposed to do. You do anything different, that's an aparad. An aparad means you're not going home. Plain and simple. So this is Lord Shiva teaching us. You are, he says, I appreciate that you are as respectable as Krishna himself. I know, and he continued, I know in this way that the devotees also respect me and that I am dear to them. Therefore, no one can be as dear to the devotees as I am. So now he's talking about the link between the devotees and Krishna, the level of respect that devotees should get. Devotees don't really hanker for it because they're humble. The true devotee is a humble person. But we should know to respect them. So if you offend, you should apologize while you still have time, because that is a mistake and a big one that can cost a person the ability to even go back home. The devotees are to be treated very, very carefully. Those who have been in Krishna consciousness a long time and still around and still happy to be in Krishna consciousness, one of the things that they're very careful of is not to offend devotees. So he said, Lord Shiva is saying, I know in this way that devotees also respect me, and we do. He is the greatest devotee, the greatest Vaishnava. And so I am dear to the devotees, and thus no one can be as dear to the devotees as I myself am. Now, he met the Prachitas weren't expecting him. They were just going to perform austerities in the water, by the way. So they come to this place and they see this big body of water. They said as big as an ocean. And Lord Shiva shows up there. Now Lord Shiva says, I shall chant one mantra, which is not only transcendental and pure and auspicious, but it is the best prayer for anyone who is aspiring to attain the ultimate goal of life. And when I chant this mantra, please hear it carefully and attentively. This is Lord Shiva telling the Prachitas that he's going to give them that gift of one mantra that he would chant. Now, hopefully we'll be able to get through the whole mantra, but I very much doubt it. As I said, Krishna has arranged that tomorrow we can continue because I'll be the same person here. Everything works out the way Krishna wants it to and Guru wants it to. We'll see. So he's going to chant one mantra for them. And the idea is they can use this mantra when they're doing their tapasya, their austerities. So he approached them because even with all of the wealth that they had, they left it and decided to go subject themselves to difficulty just to do bhakti in that state. Lord Shiva was very, very happy with them. And so he appeared and said, I'm going to make it even better for them. I'll tell them what prayer to chant while they're doing this. So he starts like that. So first, Lord Shiva addressed the Supreme Personality of Godhead with the following prayer. He said, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, all glories unto you. You are the most exalted of all self-realized souls. Since you are always auspicious for the self-realized, I wish that you be auspicious for me. You are worshipable by virtue of all perfect instructions that you give. You are the super soul, Therefore, I offer my obeisances unto you as the supreme living being. This is Lord Shiva addressing the Supreme Personality of Godhead with this prayer. All glories to you. You are the most exalted of all self-realized souls. And he's saying, since you are most auspicious, always auspicious for the self-realized, I wish that you be auspicious for me also. Now, it seems like Lord Shiva is addressing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that the Lord should be auspicious for him. And then in the end, it says, I offer my respectful obeisances to you as a supreme living being. But you have to put things in context now. He's telling the Prachitas what prayer to say when they start their tapasya. Hmm? And he says, since you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are always auspicious for the self-realized, I wish that you be auspicious for me. So Lord Shiva is saying that when they repeat that, when the Prachitas repeat that, I wish you be auspicious for me, that would be asking the Lord to be auspicious for the Prachitas. And if we say that same prayer, we're asking the Lord to be auspicious for us also. It's a general prayer. But the Lord Shiva put it that way so that all they have to do is repeat it, and now it would be them, the Prachitas, appealing to the Supreme Personality of Godhead with that. So the grammar was put on very nicely. Hmm? Lord Shiva is always praising the Supreme Personality of Godhead, always meditating on him anyway. So he continued. This is Lord Shiva speaking. My Lord, teaching them, the Prachitas, you are the origin of the creation by virtue of the lotus flower which sprouts from your navel. You are the supreme controller of the senses and the sense objects. Hmm? And you are also the all-pervading Vasudeva. You are most peaceful, and because of your self-illuminated existence, you are not disturbed by the 6 kinds of transformations. So Lord Shiva is saying you are the origin of the creation, and this time he meant the material creation. The spiritual world is manifested, the material world is created. And annihilated and created again, annihilated and created over and over and over again in this cycle. So you are the origin of the creation by virtue of the lotus flower which sprouts from your navel. This is Gaudaksha Vishnu. When Lord Brahma was born from that lotus flower, he didn't know what was going on. He went back into the stem of the lotus flower and he saw the universe. All the planetary, the 14 planetary systems were in the stem of the lotus flower. So when Lord Shiva says this, that's the connection. My Lord, you are the origin of the creation by virtue of the lotus flower, which has all of the planets there for Lord, for the universe, for Lord Brahma to later on learn how to make the varieties in the universe, the different planets and the different things in each planet. But that's where it is, in the lotus flower stem. And Lord Shiva also says, you are the supreme controller of the sense and the sense object. That's why he's called Rishikesh, master of the senses. And he's also the all-pervading Vasudeva. Sometimes the prayer mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, offer our respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Vasudeva, son of Vasudeva. You're most peaceful, and because of your self-illuminated existence, you are not disturbed by the 6 kinds of transformations: birth, growth, being around for a while. And this is how we are. We start as babies, we grow, then we get to a certain point, and we know we stop growing because we don't get any taller than we are. And at that point, and then we produce some of our own type, human beings, since we are in human bodies. That's the fourth step. So birth is one, growth two, up to a point where we just stay for a while. That's three. Then we have children. That's four. Then the body starts breaking down. That's five. And then we leave the body. Six. Krishna is not affected by any of these kinds of transformations. So Lord Shiva continues, my dear Lord, you are the origin of the subtle material ingredients, the master of all integration, as well as the master of all disintegration. You are the predominating deity called Sankashan, and the master of all intelligence, known as the predominating deity Pradyumna. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Now, where's Lord Shiva going with this? Well, there's the Chaturvyuha, the four features of the Lord: Vasudev, Anirudh, Sankashan, and Pradyumna. And so far, he's talked about the all-pervading Vasudev. Now he's also talked about the deity, the predominating deity named Sankashan. That one which was connected with being the origin of the subtle material ingredients, the subtle one. Their integration as well as their disintegration. He's master of that. The master of intelligence is Pradyumna. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Now, every time he says I, he's saying it, but when the Pracheta is saying it's going to be I, the Pracheta, offering obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, then he went on, Lord Shiva, my Lord, as the supreme directing deity known as Aniruddha, so now he's named all four of them, starting with Vasudev, then Sankashan, then Pradyumna, and now this time Aniruddha. You are the master of the senses and the mind. I therefore offer my obeisances unto you again and again. You are known as Ananta as well as Sankashan because of your ability to destroy the whole creation by the blazing fire from your mouth. And as far as destruction goes, no one knows it better than Lord Shiva, because it's very much connected with that. He's also meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ananta. So he put that in as Aniruddha, the master of the senses and the mind. So Shiva continued, more on Lord Aniruddha. My Lord and O Aniruddha, you are the authority by which the doors of the higher planetary systems and liberation are opened. You are always within the pure heart of a living entity. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances to you. You are the possessor of semen, which is like gold, and thus, in the form of fire, you help the Vedic sacrifices, beginning with the Chatuhotra. Therefore, I offer my obeisances unto you. So more description about the nature of the Lord and the function of the Lord Aniruddha. Again, teaching the Prachetas. Very, very elaborate mantra. My Lord, you are the provider of the Pitrulokas, as well as all the demigods. Pitrulokas, where the ancestors are. You are the predominating deity of the moon and the master of all three Vedas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you because you are the original source of satisfaction for all living entities. Then he went on. This part, very, very much familiar with us if you've been coming to class earlier, last week or couple of weeks. My dear Lord, you are the gigantic universal form, which contains all the individual bodies of the living entities. The Virat Rupa, much have been talked about in earlier days, in earlier texts, in Virat Rupa. The universal form which contains all of the individual bodies of the living entities. You're also the maintainer of the three worlds, which means the upper planetary system, the medium planetary system, which is where we are, and the lower planetary system. 14 planetary systems like that, and we are in the middle. You are the maintainer of the three worlds, and as such, you maintain the mind, the senses, the body, and air of life within them. You maintain the mind. First, he talked about the senses and the mind. The Lord Aniruddha maintaining this. Now, he stresses it again here. The air of life within them, the prana. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. My dear Lord, he continued, by expanding your transcendental vibrations, you reveal the actual meaning of everything. The sound of the Vedas is from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are the all-pervading sky within and without, and you are the ultimate goal of pious activities executed both within this material world and beyond it. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances again and again unto you. You are the ultimate goal of pious activities. Oktaram yagyatapasam savaloka maheshwaram. The Lord himself says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, text 29, which is the very last text of that chapter, chapter 5, Kama Yoga, Action and Krishna Consciousness. He says, he is the beneficiary of all tapasas, all activities. Later he also says, Yat karosi yat astasi yat yohoshi dadasi yat. So, whatever we do, whatever we eat, whatever austerities, yat tapasi konteya, yat tapasya konteya, tat krusvamat apanam. Do everything for me. And Lord Shiva, in his own words now, are saying Krishna is the ultimate goal of pious activities executed in both the material world and the spiritual. And I offer my respectful obeisances, therefore, again and again unto you. Beautiful prayer by Lord Shiva. My dear Lord, you are the viewer of the results of pious activities. And that's exactly what the Paramatma does. A devotee does not have their accounts of what they do with Jamaraj anymore. When one becomes a faithful follower of Krishna, Krishna conscious person, it is in fact the one that takes care of do's and don'ts and things that are recorded is in fact the Paramatma. Everything is the Paramatma, taken care of by the Lord himself. So devotees are not on the karma like that anymore. So, my dear Lord, Lord Shiva is saying, you are the viewer of the results of pious activities. You are inclination, disinclination, and their resultant activities. You are the cause of the miserable conditions of life caused by irreligion, and therefore you are death. And Krishna says too, Mrityu harasyan aham. I am death. So, Lord Shiva is also repeating here, I offer you my respectful obeisances. The activities, what we are inclined to do, what we stop, and what happens from what we do or do not do. Inclination to do and disinclination to do. And the cause of miserable conditions of life caused by irreligion, that's also Krishna. We choose irreligion if we want to, and the miserable conditions that come with it. And later on, the person dies and life goes on again, another body. So we read one more and then we'll stop. My dear Lord, you are the topmost of all bestowers of all benediction. You are the topmost. There are others that are called, my dear Lord Brahma is called my dear Lord, but they can bestow benediction. Just like Hiranyakashipu got quite a bit of benedictions from Lord Brahma, although it didn't help him because he had evil intentions, and Krishna came as Shingadeva and killed him. But Lord Shiva is saying, and he bestows a lot of benedictions himself, and he says, Krishna, you are the topmost of all bestowers of benediction. Hmm? You are the oldest and supreme enjoyer among all enjoyers. The demigods enjoy, but the supreme enjoyer is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are the master of the world's metaphysical philosophy, but you are the supreme cause of all causes, Lord Krishna. Just like Lord Brahma also says, Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. You are the greatest of all religious principles, the supreme mind, and you have a brain which is never checked by any condition. Therefore, I repeatedly offer my obeisances unto you. So these are all very deep prayers that Lord Shiva was kind enough to come by himself to see the Prachetas and give them. So we have not finished yet. So we'll see how things happen tomorrow. I mean, I can't predict tomorrow, but we'll see. I know where I'm stopping. But these are all very beautiful descriptions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his qualities. Later on, the prayer will go into the description of what the Lord actually looks like, from his hair right down to his feet. It's also part of the prayer. It's actually my own favorite prayer quite a bit, but it just kind of fits this. So by the Lord's mercy, now we've been able to say some of it. So, yes, the Supreme Personality of God as Paramatma is in our heart, and he is a supreme controller. He's the one that permits things to happen. Therefore, in our day, we should pray in the morning, please, whatever happens today, let it be according to your will. We can make that request through Guru to Paramatma. Just respecting the chain of command here. We are disciples and our spiritual masters. And even if you're not initiated, the preeminent spiritual master is Srila Prabhupada. So you still can pray Srila Prabhupada in the morning. That Krishna control everything that we do. And whatever is not supposed to be good for us, take it off. And whatever helps us in our devotion service, let it happen. Like that. So that way we'll always be thinking about Krishna and we'll be in the corner of Krishna. And that means we'll be away from Maya. So the Prachitas are very fortunate and we'll continue. We'll see tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is time, dear devotees, to unmute yourself if you want to offer some takeaways about Paramatma or what Lord Shiva was telling the Prachitas in a wonderful mantra for their austerities that we're going to perform for Krishna. You can unmute yourself and make a comment if you so desire. Hare Krishna. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, accept my humble obeisances.
Accept mine, God, Srila Prabhupada.
A couple of things. One is I was, really having this realization how sweet that prayer that you shared. That they were offering everything to the Lord. Such a very meditative prayer for us to really go deeper. I think sometimes, or many times, I have to say, that when we chant, read, know, and hear such prayers, we sometimes tend to say it because it's a ritualistic or it's just something that we do, but it's more important than besides just besides just reading it. I think it's important to really dissect, each word, each line, and really what's the word, embroil ourselves in it and see
Yes.
the beauty of, wow, they're offering everything to the Lord and kind of even asking the Lord, please, be my offering, like such a sweet, sweet exchange. And it helps us to really think, wow, now how can I learn to offer everything to the Lord? And on top of that, to allow the Lord to have him be my an offering, that I can use the Lord, like an offering, like allow me to use you as an offering to the Lord. Like, it's it's just so deep. It's such a deep, deep, deep relationship. Like it's going deeper and deeper and deeper. So I was just realizing everything we do is an offering to the Lord if it's done with the proper consciousness. That
Absolutely.
gonna, yeah, it's not materialistic, it's completely spiritual. And also allowing the Lord to allow us to do that offering, if he would, so that was very, very, deep, very deep. It makes us think a million times, what am I doing, what am I doing, what am I doing? So I wanted to share that. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. The way you try to describe it alone shows the appreciation of what Lord Shiva was doing and how it affects the Pachitas. Now, of course, we weren't there, but you can imagine the Pachitas actually offered obeisances to Lord Shiva, and then they stood in front of him with folded hands. So all the time he's speaking, he's facing them, all 10 of them, and they are facing him with folded hands. In a state of humility, Lord Shiva gives them that bigger gift. So compared to those who do puja to Lord Shiva to ask for something material, what a waste of time. What a waste of opportunity. The Vaishnav, the topmost Vaishnav, you go to him for help in our Krishna consciousness. And one easy way is to repeat the prayer like that. So thank you for sharing, Hare Krishna. Anyone else would like to unmute and share? If not, okay, we are
There's
the
one
top.
point that I
Okay,
want to ask. Well, one
yeah.
question. That's my
Mhm.
second point that I was saying. In this prayer by Bhaktivinoda Thakur is very powerful.
Mhm.
You know, to see I'm most happy when I have problems, or actually, I've also heard where he says, when I have challenges in my spiritual life.
Yeah, in the course of serving the Lord, yeah, in
Yes,
our life.
actually, it's devotional service. That's the word.
Yes,
I now
yeah.
that I remember more, is Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I am most happy when I have challenges in my devotional service. Now, for a fallen conditioned soul like myself, and I'm sure many of us suffer through this, we want devotional service to be easy. We don't want problems. We just want everything to go hunky-dory, smooth, straight road, road with pebbles and diamonds. I mean, not pebbles, sorry, diamonds and roses, like smooth. But to hear this, it's like, oh my Lord. So how can we really, and this is not only for new, it's for even practicing devotees for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. How can we really understand this prayer by Bhaktivinoda Thakur and really imbibe it, not just talk, but really imbibe it and live it? How can we do that?
It depends on the extent of our love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It depends on the extent of love. And Lord Chaitanya, so you say, how? Well, Lord Chaitanya has already started us off. He has given us the way in which we develop love of Godhead. He says, chant and chant attentively. And he also has said, and he was doing it himself, Nam Sankirtan, congregational chanting of the Lord's name. So when we chant together in the temple, it has a very powerful effect because we are concentrating on the Lord's name while we chant. It helps us develop love for Godhead. When we chant outside as a group, in town, in different places, as Lord Chaitanya himself was doing in Navadvip every single day. And then he went around India and did the same thing. Every single day he was chanting. Then all the living entities that hear the holy name, they also benefit from it. So the devotees benefit by chanting the holy name, being immersed in the holy name, and that's how the love of God develops. And when the love of God is developing, getting deeper and deeper and deeper, then one wants to serve the Lord regardless of whatever happens. This is how it comes up. Our love. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very much in love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so much so that in his service, when problems come, that's the time to show how much I love Krishna. There are people when problems come, they go, well, because of these problems, I can't do my service now. I can't. Somebody has this kind of feeling, that may be there, but you have to be honest to your own self. Is there another way to get it done? Somebody covering a service should be the last resort, not the first thing. Something comes, I'm jumping it. Well, if something comes, the first thing you do is just jump away from your service. You can't develop love of Godhead that way. Not only that, but Maya will have quite influence on those people who do that. Why? Because Maya will give us more and more and more reasons not to do what we're supposed to do. Increase the consciousness. That's exactly what's going to happen. Next thing you know, it's become a point where now it's a habit to do things that don't serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It actually has become a habit. And that's the reason that we're going down there. That's the reason people go down. So to develop that mood that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has, it has to do with attentive chanting and especially being part of Sankirtan, Nam Sankirtan. And the best Nam Sankirtan is not the temple Sankirtan, because that's for the deities, that's for us hearing the holy name. But outside, more people hear the holy name. Lord Chaitanya benefited even the animals and the reptiles in the Jarikhanda forest when he was passing through. He could have walked quietly through it. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. He elected to chant the holy name and induced to the sanction of Paramatma. All these animals that sometimes prey on each other and kill each other for food, they were all together chanting the holy name of the Lord. As only Krishna, Sri Krishna Chaitanya can have them do. So it is actually quite important to give the mercy by chanting the holy name outside. And of course, in the temple also. So the Nam Sankirtan and the japa causes us, that is attentive and focused japa, it causes us to increase our love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when you fall in love with it, then it does not matter what is happening. When we want to do our service, we would take it, the whole idea of doing a service, we see it as a privilege, not an inconvenience, but a privilege to serve like that. Shri ki jai. So there is a text, and I will try to get to this text and read. Let me just see, get it here. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. This is Damodar, Prabhu. Please accept our humble obeisances. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you for reminding about the virtue of humility. Many times in the heat of the moment, I offend the devotees with their aggressive behavior. I would like to apologize about it. Do pray for me so I remain humble in serving the Lord and his devotees. Hare Krishna. So, yes, humility is very important. Now, there is also a difference between enthusiasm and aggressive. Sometimes somebody is being quite over enthusiastic and it may be seen like the person is being aggressive. So aggressive is trying to do something in a negative way. But if you want to do something and you're really into it and it's for Krishna, that's enthusiasm. That's the difference. So yeah, being careful is always a good idea. If you're not sure what you've done, you always apologize. Hmm? Like yesterday, I spoke very strongly, but how it came across, I don't know. Therefore, this is the duty of the devotee. If I step on anybody's toes, I sincerely apologize. You have to put it out there. That way you cover your own self, because the intention is not a bad intention, even though other people may read it, that way. But this is the thing, to develop Lord, Supreme Personality of God, love for him, Krishna Prema, very easy way to do it is Sankirtan. And easy way to benefit everybody, do it like the Lord did. Go out. And when the Chankazi tried to stop the congregational chanting of the Lord's name outside, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu organized a huge rally, demonstration against the Chankazi, because he was trying to stop the chanting of the holy name in the streets. So they came, 100,000 men. They came to the Chankazi's house. He was scared. And Chankazi is the leader, and he had the police and so on. They were all scared. So later on, Lord Chaitanya invited him out and kind of had a civil conversation with him. And Chankazi promised never to stop the Sankirtan, the chanting, the Nam Sankirtan, the chanting of the Lord in the streets. He said he would never, stop. Chaitanya Charitamrita said that. Chaitanya Bhagavat actually explained that when the crowd, those following Lord Chaitanya, got to the Chankazi's house, they went in the first floor and just basically decimated this broke everything that was there. And all of them, including the Chankazi himself, had to go up to the second floor and higher floors. That's how the people who came with Lord Chaitanya were upset. Sankirtan in the streets can never be stopped. And anybody that tries to stop it pays a heavy price for it. It also helps us develop love from the Lord. And from there, then we can do everything. If it's for the Lord, it doesn't matter what we're going through. The same attitude should be there for our spiritual masters also. And if you really become humble, you do it for regular devotees also. But especially, you be careful how you speak to devotees. Because if you become an aparadi, forget it. You're not going anywhere. Not the spiritual world, not this time. So these are all the things, the checks and balances. We have to be careful what we should do and then what we should not do. Hare Krishna. Any last comments, questions? If not, then thank you very much for becoming part of this. And we all learn as we go on. Lord Shiva is teaching us this time. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakapatarubhascha kripa sindhubheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai. Hare Krishna. So beginning of a week, have a wonderful Krishna conscious rest of your week. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Glory to the Prabhupada.